Right. Good evening, good night, and welcome to Mindful Life 442. Is it? Yeah, I believe it is. On the 14th of November in the year of our Lord 2024. Welcome in the beautiful Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the paradise on earth, the land that doesn't exist, where they theorize that the omnipotent one makes his home here. So they say. We'll see. But we're talking, it's a Thursday, and on a Thursday we talk. Thursday talks, whatever the discussion or question or comment is, feel free to drop that inside of the chat and we'll pick up that discussion. Picking up from where we were talking, though. We were talking about the news in the air, the American election, a week and 2 days out, I believe that was. But yeah, Ronnie, what I was hearing, it's not necessarily that the Democrats wanted to pick her. The Democrats double-crossed Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe had no intention of not running. He was going to run. The Democrats, it seemed, someone on the inside wrote a letter on his behalf, resigning for him.
What? I didn't hear that. That's why.
He resigned. He stepped down from the race through a letter purportedly written by him and a picture of that letter posted as a tweet on his official Twitter profile.
Yeah, I know that.
And the talk behind the scenes is that letter didn't originate from him. He wasn't okay with that. But because they forced him into stepping down as get backs on the Democrats, he endorsed Kamala within like half hour or so. Within short time of that letter, the Democrats didn't actually want Kamala, is the rumor. They wanted to go through a full primary and get another candidate who would have been much more palatable and have a better chance. But because they double-cross Uncle Joe say, well, take that, endorse Kamala, so then lock them in with Kamala. Because if the president endorses someone, you're not going to go against who the incumbent endorses. You know why I don't buy the money story? I believe it was something like 30 million Joe had. They raised $1 billion. You telling me you're willing to risk a worse candidate for 30 million and you're capable of raising $1 billion? I don't buy that, really and truly.
Well, she raised $1 billion and not to be. But I mean, there had a lot of factors that she was playing on that key for that billion. She was a woman. She was a woman of color. She was.
I don't really think so. I think that's just the Democrat Party machine. Because they could have plugged anyone into that position and they may have gotten that same billion. It was just the Democrat Party machine going into hyper gear because they had short time to work with. I don't think it had anything to do with her being anything special. I don't think anyone gave extra because of her being anything special, really and truly. I don't really buy that.
Well, Disney gave a lot of money.
Yeah, but they would have given it regardless. Like, do you think if the Democrats were able to get some other more viable candidate in their lineup, Josh Shapiro, whoever else, that
I don't think they would have gone with him.
Why? Because the Jewish problem thing? Yeah.
But then why didn't she choose a better running mate?
Because no one wanted to run with her. She's an anchor, dead weight. Listen. If you are Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, or the governor of Michigan, the woman up there, some woman up there, names that were being tossed out there, why would you go and run as the VP for a candidate that isn't a well-liked candidate? If you lose as the VP, Tim Walz doesn't really have another chance. If you lose as the VP there, you are sticking your name on an anchor. So it's said that Shapiro, she asked him first, and he turned her down.
But he said that's not true. That's what he said. That's what he said.
Of course he said that.
Obviously, he'll say that. But as I said before, it seemed almost like, and I said this since August, this is a throwaway elections for the Democrats. They said, you know what, we're going to lose. We're going to throw the worst of the worst out there and call it George. Because they did not put their best foot forward in no way, shape, or form. The president was trash. The VP was trash. It was just a mess, though. It was like, you know what? Let me just show them we tricks. Let me just show them what we got, what we really working with. Let me just let us mess die down, and then next election, we'll go again.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I just think that's what they had. That's where they reached. Many in their party are trying to pull it back and all of that. No, but that's where the party reached, because they kept moving in a direction of quote unquote progress. And if you reach the good place and still going looking for better, you're eventually going to reach the crazy place, and that's where they reached. That's where they reached. It's insane. It just reached an insane point. And to me, the real telltale sign of that is the whole Tran issue. That is insane on all levels. That's just crazy. And the level of...
Did you get to read my comment with the roly-poly? Was it on your screen, or did they block it?
They probably blocked it. That Tran issue is obviously insane. How you mean the most rudimentary difference between humans that we recognize from the jump? We are all supposed to start pretending from yesterday that we can't tell this. We have no idea, you know. It's all up in the wind. It's all, you know, wishy-washy stuff that we choose on a given day. What's up? That we choose on a given day. Good night, Lyndon Supers. The American population wanted Trump. That seems quite obvious. That seems obvious. And it's interesting to me seeing people complain about democracy, the dangers to democracy, and I'm like, this is what democracy is, bro.
No, but I mean, more insulting is the talk shows and these things and this and that talking about, oh, and black people, well, they have this problem, and women, and acting like they didn't vote too. They voted, and they voted for him. And that women that vote for him, and some black people that vote for him.
Quite a lot.
A lot of black, well, much more than normal. Well, I mean, I guess the black men. But they had black women who was like, yeah. I mean, I don't know what's the actual number for black women.
Low. It's low. It's low.
Well,
It's
I mean,
low.
I'm sure it was higher than before.
Higher than before, granted,
Right.
but low.
It's a climbing out. They're climbing out slowly.
And this election, to me, gives the conservatives, the Republicans, it gives them some credence to their crying foul in 2020, claiming that the 2020 election was stolen and all of that stuff. Because Kamala lost in terms of the difference between her and Joe Biden. I think it was something like 18 million plus votes. The thing is, they keep asking, where did those votes go? That's not the right question, because if you look at the charts of the US elections, she got close to the average of around where many Democrats get. It's just that 2020, it's not where did the 18 million go this time, is where did that 18 million come from the last time.
We don't want to talk about that.
What I'm concerned about is the hardliners that Trump is putting in his cabinet. Which hardliners exactly are you referring to? Bad news for Palestine and bad news for us. Which hardliners are those exactly?
I think the same of like some kind of
Marco Rubio, yeah. Marco Rubio has some neocon tendencies, but to me,
and apparently some woman. I can't remember who the woman.
Huckabee Sanders. But to me, he has some of them, but he has much less than any other person would have had. And it is possible because his general, at least what he says is his strategy, the strategy he says he tries to implement is strength through power. So people have to believe that you're really going to nuke them and bomb them if they don't do what you tell them to do. So maybe that's some of it. I don't know. I guess we're all going to find out eventually. I don't think necessarily that's bad news for us, as in any worse than it would have been some other way. So
I mean, it could have been worse. Definitely could have been worse.
To hell with Texas. Continue buying our gas. Well, I ain't know about that one.
Trump going to ban back Venezuela.
He has a hard stance on Venezuela as well. Well, Rubio could have what he has. He is not the president himself, so we will see. We will see. Even though some people, there are some accusations, some claims that the heightened exodus out of Venezuela that is flooding our shores, that has been flooding our shores for the last nearly decade. Some people say it was accelerated by Trump also due to some of the stances that he took on Venezuela, causing even more hardship in Venezuela, which caused more people to want to leave. So that gas from Dragonfield might be compromised. I don't know. I don't know if I see that as being a thing yet. We'll see. We will see. That we shall.
But I wait to see what's gonna go on with deportation. That is the one. That is the main thing. I don't know something. A lot of the people who went and they got their papers, if you understand what I'm saying, if you're on YouTube and you don't know what that means. When people get straight in America, they got legalized and whatever. They definitely don't like the illegal immigration either. Like, I can tell you, my family lives there who's legal, and they lived in New York as all Caribbean illegals to live in New York. And then they left. And I think that a lot of people who now legal, they like fleeing these places like New York and California and getting out of hand with one crime, and the immigration is a huge problem. But what I don't like is that they leave these very blue states, go to a very red state, because my family, they're now in Florida.
And go in Florida to try and bring Kamala down to the people of Florida.
I'm gonna blow up the people red state. And I just mean, like, leave it for that good state. You went there because it was good, right? So what you want to change it for? Leave it alone. But yeah, no. I think even though, like, I may be mistaken, I think I heard somebody say, they're good with some deportation because, the families be calling them to bother them now. So I don't know.
So do what, the family get deported?
They don't mind.
I think the survey of it had some, is it 80% of American citizens are very okay with increased deportation. And like, really and truly, people think this is a shocking thing because they don't put themselves in that situation. Go in Trinidad and ask most Trinis, would you be okay with sending back the Venice?
That's what I just always ask them. I just always say, if any politician in Trinidad will come and say they are mass deportations for Venezuelans, would they vote for them? And they always say yes. So I don't understand why they're so upset with somebody else deporting people from who not from there. It don't make no sense.
It's kind of simple to me, really, and like, how could I be upset that people don't want you in their place? You want to go in the people place and vex because they want you out. And then come with some contorted nonsense about it's not their place, they steal it from the natives. If the natives still had it, you weren't going there. The natives did not have New York and Chicago and Miami and Disney World. Those pictures that you're taking next to the tall buildings weren't what the natives had. You aren't going there to see what the natives had. Hush your mouth. You're going there to the people place. And then your bold face on top of it. Like, that's so strange to me. You think United States farms will survive without that cheap labor? Yes, they will. As many people pointed out, the United States, they changed their mode of operating like in the 60s. The US was a manufacturing working country before that, and they were the wealthiest country when they were. They will survive, Umar. Trust me on that one. They will survive. What's going to happen is the farms, the mega farms are going to have to change how they run. But the medium-sized farms that hire skilled workers anyway are going to run quite fine. It's like in Trinidad and Tobago, many contractors are now flooding their it's not that, Umar, you're not understanding this. You aren't. Listen to what I'm saying. It's like in Trinidad, where many contractors are now flooding their workforce with cheap Venezuelan laborers. Many of them are. If someone comes in and promises to return all of the Venezuelans, are we now going to say, well, houses go build in Trinidad, but what will happen? No, those contractors will just have to hire local laborers now and pay them a higher wage. And the houses will still be built.
But this is my thing though. Why do we want to keep illegals to pay them less?
That's insane. And people that claim they care about the lower classes and the working class want things like that. You don't understand. And this is what Trump said way back, and they try and drag him to hell and back, I guess, over the black jobs, because many of the black people find themselves in the working classes. And if you dilute the working class with cheap labor, what are you doing to the wages of those in that class? You're dragging it down too. That's obviously what you're doing. You can't say you care about these people. Bro, Venice are not underpaid, bro. Linden Supers, I am a contractor. Behave yourself. Linden Supers, I am a contractor. Behave yourself. Stop lying on my platform. Stop it. Stop it right now. Springer, you very selective. Selective about what? Every single thing we buy out of China is because of cheap labor. Yes. And I would like that to stop. I don't mind if that stops. I could remember a time, and think back, if you are old enough, remember in the 90s when everything wasn't made in China and things lasted longer, when you got something and it felt thicker and more sturdy. That's not a bad thing. Why do we want to encourage Chinese slavery and neocolonialism? Like, why would that be a good thing?
It's not.
If anything, they get the best of both worlds because they don't pay tax. No laborer in Trinidad pays tax, Linden Supers. Which laborer on a construction site you know paying tax? Writing up their returns every year.
Well, we're talking about the laborers, the patient. Them good, them taking the 300 at the end of the day and go. If you could find them tomorrow, you're good to go.
Which laborer paying tax? No laborer pays any tax. The only tax they pay is VAT when they buy the sweet drink and bread and thing. Do you think it's possible for Trinidad to implement the El Salvador approach to crime? Not really, because we don't have a Supreme Court like El Salvador. We have the Privy Council. And if you do that to these boys down here, they're going to hire some of our lovely lawyers and take you to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court isn't going to go along with that. So in order for us to do the El Salvador approach, we would first need to change where our highest court is. And I don't even think the CCJ would work, because I don't think the CCJ would go along with the El Salvador approach. The El Salvador approach works because their highest court is self-contained in their country, so the president was basically able to control that and then go on from there. It's not going to work like that here, really and truly. It's just reality. It's just the reality that we created, though. It's the reality that we facilitate. And if we don't facilitate that reality, it's going to stop. Here's the reality. The reality in the 1600s was the way to become rich as a nation was to use slavery. Go find slaves wherever you could. And it turned out them people with the dark skin from below the Saharan desert in Africa, them sub-Saharans, them boys be strong and they live long. So we get us a good shipload of those guys and we go over and we make some money, boys. That was just the reality. And many people thought that if you stop slavery, the whole economy is going to crash. The global economy is going to collapse. How are we going to even run this world without slaves? How are we going to get food? How is the sugar cane going to be cut? How are we going to get sugar for our tea? And what would you know? We stopped slavery and innovation and industrialization boomed and the efficiency actually raised. What would you know? Things became cheaper and we got them at better quality. So the reality that we create isn't necessarily the reality that must be. We created the reality where we flood our markets with cheap Chinese goods that aren't that good. So you're going to buy something for $10 every 2 months instead of buy something for $100 that lasts you years. Which one really is better? Which one makes for a better economy in the long run? I don't buy it that if you get rid of the cheap migrant labor or cheap Chinese goods that we can't survive. We've got not attached to cheap nonsense. And that cheap nonsense, to be fair, is a lot of consumerism also. A lot of it is consumer goods. It's not even stuff that you need. It's petty consumerism. You're tying yourself to a whole new colonial power over petty consumerism. No thanks. Not for me.
Too much into that. You know, I watched this show, Woman King, the first time this week. And you know something? They should have just, if they had just renamed the tribe, it would have been a decent show. It would have been a decent watch. I enjoyed that show. That show was fine. If they had just not tried to be factual and fictional at the same time, that was the problem. But the show was decent though. I must say I enjoyed it. They could have just be like, you don't name it Wakanda Part 3. Yeah?
China produces high quality goods as well. Linden Supers, you working for a Chinese company or what? I find you in here.
We hope the economy crash.
I suppose he's talking about the US. I don't think it will actually.
But why would you hope for that? $1 would be worth nothing then.
Like, that's a hope coming from his geopolitical worldview. His geopolitical worldview is more in support of the green team to win, and the green team is death to America, really and truly. So I am not surprised that you'd want the economy to crash, but personally for me, I think that's going to cause a lot of suffering in Trinidad and Tobago that won't work well. The fact that the US were enabling Israel to commit genocide doesn't sit right with me.
Okay, no problem.
Let's not go down that road again.
No problem. Yes, thank you. Okay, no problem. I went to dinner with some people. It's not easy. It's not easy out there, you know? These people are so media washed, but mind you, all of them they work in media, so I guess that's why.
Mm-hmm.
But my goodness, I had to sit down through reparations, Israel genocide, Trump is a racist, literally everything. One who is bi but not bi because it have more than two sex, so it's not bi. It was crazy.
Well, they're pan. That's pan. You see? They don't even know their own terminology. Hey, Paul Duncan, good night to you too.
Yeah, but it was crazy. And the thing is, now granted, these are my friends, so don't think I'm speaking ill of my friends. No, I'm not. We have heated debates and then we...
But Umar, what she is saying is that is the Western media logic. That's the point she is making. Almost all of those things that were said are what the popular media in the West says.
No, well, I mean, in particular, listen, when you have that mindset, you will 100%, no, 99% know where a person falls if they say certain things. So,
Yeah.
if somebody, and oh gosh, an abortion, oh gosh. So, if somebody says to me, a fetus is a parasite, okay, I don't already know where they land on almost 100% of issues. A fetus is a parasite, so abortion therefore is good. Israel is therefore committing genocide. Trump is really a racist. Reparations is needed by all black people. Africa shouldn't pay reparations even though they sold their people. Is not really Africa's fault because they suffering, so they shouldn't pay reparations. It's crazy how the conversation goes. And it's like, I don't understand how we get there because these people in Africa, these emperors and tribe leaders or whatever you call them,
Chiefs.
they were the ones that were selling the people. If they did not sell the people, the Europeans wouldn't have the people, right? So why are we picking up the issue with the last point? Why are we not going to the first point if it's such an issue?
Because the first point doesn't have much to give.
Well, then it is not, then the issue is not the act that was committed. It is the result that you want. Because if
exactly. And that's the issue. The issue. I'm telling you, the issue is born out of a more socialist communist worldview. Should countries in the Middle East pay reparations as well because the Arabian slave trade? Well, of course, all of them, if that's the case. But my personal view is no. If the case is that what is being repaired is something that was directly perpetrated against these living victims, then I don't mind reparations. That makes sense. But I don't like the idea of it right now. And the thing is, I feel most likely, as I say regularly, if we do get reparations, it's going to go to some committee and some fund, and we're going to get some woke weirdo out of university spending some woke weirdo with a nose ring and a weird earring somewhere and lots of beads and bracelets, spending the reparation money on what they deem would be beneficial to the African community. Like, if you're talking about really just handing over a meal per person or something like that, well, cool, but how are you going to do that?
Inflation will drive up everything. So you can forget about that, please.
Like, the thing just doesn't really add up to me. Like, I was watching, they had a big reparations summit in Benin. Anybody knows what Benin is the direct successor of? The main slaver kingdom in West Africa. Like, how you out there in Benin asking Europe to apologize like Benin is the innocent place?
Shit.
Like, these things don't make sense to me. And Umar, I won't say people aren't entitled to a different view. By all means, you are entitled to a different view. I think what Ronnie was saying is that generally ideologues, and that's the word for those people, Ronnie, ideologues, people that are possessed by an idea. Everything runs through this idea. Wilfred, you're just putting in phrases, but you aren't putting in much more than that. People that are possessed by this idea, they say one thing, and you could just about guess their view on everything else. And on, like, for example, on that Israel-Palestine issue, I won't say everyone who is of that view is what you're saying, Ronnie. There are two different groups. There are some people who are on the genocide view from being more left-wing, even libertarian left-wing leaning in their political view. And then there are those who are of that view because they are Muslim. And those are by and large the two largest groups that say that. Like, that's not wrong to make that observation.
No, I wouldn't
It's
say
fact.
that. They weren't Muslims, that's why I could say that. I know every Muslim is going to definitely be on Palestine's side. I don't know any Muslim that isn't. Every time I walk and I see a watermelon attached to somebody, I look and I see that they have their full beard and they have their little thing on their head. I know that's a Muslim. So I don't know what's the thing on the head. Sorry.
But that is just some observation. Not every Muslim supports the Palestinian cause. Not every Muslim supports the Palestinian cause.
But okay, every Muslim I know in Trinidad.
It might be a minority, but not every Muslim supports that. Right? Now listen, my view, my issue, I am not team death to America. I don't support that. I'm not on that team. Right?
What if she's not saying?
Right? I'm not on team death to America. No. I on team, I do not like some of the US foreign policy. That is what I am about. Some of their foreign policy is detrimental and completely self-serving.
Well, fact.
It's not that I want to see every US citizen in a bag. That's not my view. That's not my position. My position is US foreign policy. In most cases, especially in developing and third world countries, is very parasitical. And that is the reality. Anybody who denying that is considered as brainwashed by TV and movies.
I agree with you there.
But I agree. And I think we had some of these kind of discussions. I agree 100%. But here's the thing. That's what the big fish in the pond always does. And that's how the world has always run. And to be fair, all the other smaller fishes in the pond always wish that this big fish would catch a stroke and just dead already. Yeah? So I don't blame people for feeling that way. But that's the nature of it. And if the US economy crashes and they are no longer the main power in the world, another country is going to do it, and they're going to do the same thing. When China is making those deals, the Belt and Road Initiative in Africa, you think that's because they like sub-Saharan Africans? No, they're doing that for their benefit.
Yeah, you see. But again, it comes down with China. With China, it's not like China coming and tell you, but here's what's going on. We want this done, buddy. And if you don't do this how we want it, we're going to cut this aid from here.
Well,
And if
that's
listen. And you know what they're going to do, right? And if you still ignore them after you cut the aid, they're going to find a reason to sanction it because something you're doing not in line with their moral values. So they're going to start a sanction them.
Sanction if you're lucky. If you're a small third world country, they aren't going through the sanction route. Sanction is for main countries. If you are a small country, they're going to cause a coup. They're going to cause a color revolution. The CIA is going to start to whisper in people's ears.
I don't want to say that because I want to say it's conspiracy theory.
That's conspiracy fact. That's conspiracy fact. That's a fact. The US has perpetrated coups all over the world. And I don't deny those things. I know that. I believe that. Here's the thing like with the US and China though. I agree. China isn't as forceful as the United States. But here's why I think it is. It's not because they are nicer. I actually think in the long run, this is my honest belief. I think in the long run, if we were to choose a big fish and we choose China, we will cry over it. Because as this weirdo guy, Charleston White, I don't know how many of you know him with the glass eye. And he always says that the white people are our only allies, talking about the whites and the blacks. I actually think the Chinese may hate you more. But China is an ethno-state, just by the way. China had more races than just Han Chinese. But if you look at their parliament, you would think that China is a monolith. And you think they love you and they right. But the thing is, they can play the long game. They don't have election cycles every 4 years or 5 years like normal democratic countries. China could play the 100-year game. We know we're going to loan you this money. We don't have to see the return. We don't have to see the return in 5 years. You cannot pay in 20 years. You cannot pay. And then we will come and take it. No, you enjoy. You enjoy, black brother. You enjoy.
But this is what I was going to say to you, Abu. Friday, while China is not going to, and to just kind of go for your same point, Nathan, they aren't forceful in that way. They aren't forceful yet. They are waiting for you to default on your loans that you cannot pay. Let me be real, they're giving these African nations money that they know they cannot repay. So what is going to happen to Africa when China decides, okay, you all haven't paid us back yet? You think they're going to be like, oh, let's forgive it?
It's not about forgiving. This one, right?
It's not about forgiving, it's about power. It's about
this. You know what? I've been dealing with this monster for X amount of decades. I've been dealing with this monster for X amount of decades. And it's been working out. So we're going to take a gamble and try this next monster here. We're not saying it's not monster. We're not saying it's not monster.
Just now though. But what's not working out, Umar?
In the context of Africa, right?
No, I talking about for us here. For us wishing things. You think, let me ask this question before you go on. You think right now, the way Trinidad is set up, if China was the main global power, we would have had life better in Trinidad?
I'm not saying yes or no to that, but I'll give you one reference, right? United States at one point in time, maybe in the 90s or 80s, Trinidad and Tobago was supplying most natural gas.
Yeah.
And they were not paying us market price.
Mm-hmm.
And they were not paying us market price because they say they are providing us maritime security and they had a drug agreement for the maritime waters. So on that, they were paying less than market price for our natural resources.
Mm-hmm.
That was the deal.
Mm-hmm.
okay, that was a deal. You agreed to
But
it.
why would
What's China paying for our pitch? Just now. What's China paying for our pitch currently?
No, it's the same thing. A deal is a
Oh, okay. So when the US do it, is US nasty, but when ollie for China.
Let me finish my statement. Your democratically elected prime minister decided to lease.
But our democratically elected prime minister decided to go in a deal with the United States.
She was not forced to do that.
Nobody forced them to do that. You didn't have to sell your natural gas to the United States.
But that is the road the government chooses to go down.
Right. Same thing with China. That is the road the government chooses to go down.
Because had they not go down that road with the anti-drug move according to maritime water, they would have said the state is not facilitating the anti-drug operation.
Okay.
That's how they be realistic. That is not what I would have said.
Duh. They have to do something for something, you know.
Oh, there was never fight in the drug war, eh? Forget that.
Mm-hmm.
With them saying that you're not participating in fighting the drugs that flowing from South America. Alright?
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, to have you blacklisted on something, just like how Keith Rowley right now is not on best of terms with the US because of his position on Venezuela. He's not on best
But that's diplomacy. Listen, Barbados is a weaker country than Trinidad. I want us to flex our strength on Barbados. Let them get out with water with this flying fish talk. Hey, that we flying fish. That is diplomacy.
No, but just now, I'm
right diplomacy. That is right diplomacy.
No,
That is what? What that is? What? But here's the thing, Umar. And here's the difference even with the US versus China. we could know all of that. Because at least we could file FOIAs in Trinidad, we could file FOIAs in the United States. There are news stations that hate their government in the United States. There are leakers and investigative journalists and da-da-da-da. Why have in China? Wait, let me finish my point. We don't even know what deal take place with the pitch lake, innit? We don't even know if they're paying us nothing. We don't know. We know nothing. Nothing. You could sit down and say all the nasty details and intricacies of how the US do it because we know. We don't even know how China's skinning we alive, but we sure they skinning we.
I can file and get the information from the States.
On your end, on Trinidad's end.
But here's the thing. No, you cannot because there are NDAs.
Oh, they did NDAs for China too?
All those business arrangements have NDAs. And here's the thing. If in Trinidad there's an NDA and you're in that deal with China, that's closed off permanently. If in Trinidad there's an NDA and you're in that deal with the United States, someone could file a brief in the United States that this NDA goes against the Freedom of Information Act and it's not supposed to be filed under that and go through the court, and the court could say you have to release it, and then after 30 years we find out that actually the US bombed themselves. That's how they ended up in the Vietnam War, in the Gulf of Tonkin. We find out that the US knew Japan was going to do Pearl Harbor and they allowed them to do it so that they could join World War II. All these things the US tell us that the US did because there is that level of freedom. Where you ever found out anything like that from China? Can you even speak the language if they release the Freedom of Information stuff?
I agree with what you're saying, I am not here to defend the Chinese Republic. I agree with everything you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is, the land that for the last, 100 years, that the world has been forced to deal with because they lost their dollar on the world, right? Hasn't been dealing nice. So if now these countries decide, you know what? I'm going to try something else. I'm going to try a shift. It should be surprising.
I agree there. And here's how I will see it. Sorry, Ronnie. You're coming right after. I will say, and I say this about Trinidad too, I don't think we are supposed to hold the US's lane. We are supposed to hold our own lane. Don't get ourselves tied up in any kind of monkey pants that we're not supposed to be in. Do what benefits us most, just like the US is doing. I agree with that. What I wouldn't say is I don't think I want the US to crash, because I believe the world functions with the strongest power taking the power. That's how the world has always functioned. And yeah, I understand that. And my belief, I agree, as we know. We actually agree on all the facts in this situation. It's just the grouse and the opinion a little different. But I agree on all you saying. The US has been a monster. But you view it as this monster so nasty are willing to try nearly anything else. I view it as I feel like rather the monster I know than the monster I don't.
And I understand that.
And I can't speak Mandarin. Yeah, Ronnie.
Two things I wanted to say. In your deal with the deal we did with America paying them less for our gas, and they would offer us protection on the to me, I think that's a good deal, because one, you get to spend less on your marine, and you could, well, not, we don't have marines, but in your waters you get to spend less that way, and you get better protection for it. I think since then, our drug problem in Trinidad and Tobago has gotten way out of hand, as we can tell that all of the crime that is happening currently, our crime...
Them buggers were selling drugs too, Ronnie.
Well, of course, but I was having the same conversation with my friends. It is not that you eliminate a problem, but if you could control it, it would be good enough. I think they would do a decent enough job to control. If they were the ones selling it, they knew who was selling. But no, we don't know what the heck going on. The place is going crazy because of these drugs, and we don't know how they coming, how they going, who doing what. We don't know nothing. We have no protection and no law and order on that. there is literally no elimination of crime. There is only a control on it. If that makes sense, I see it that way.
I understand what you mean.
People understand.
And-
It's not like I say do crime, but I don't think that it will be eliminated.
Here's the thing. I think, and all over the world, the US has that deal. That deal works for many people. A lot of those European countries, like when people talk about all these lovely things that Norway and Sweden and those countries have, it's because they have $0 spent on their military budget. Because the United States, through NATO, basically is they use the US as their military. And Canada does the same too. Many of these other countries do the same, and they boast, we don't spend anything on our military. And look at that brutal United States with all their guns and mean people. And they know they sign a deal that, Alia, y'all are our military, right? The last time Trump came in 2016, this man as a businessman and a landlord started telling people, hey, are they not paying up? Because the deal was supposed to be people paid and the US became the world police. Now, the thing is, just right before you jump in, that world police actually doesn't only benefit the country that they're protecting. It's like the gangsters who give you protection. They're getting benefit out of that too. They find themselves in the power position everywhere in the world. So, what's the trade-off?
But that drug interdiction never worked for trader. It never worked.
It would give us now.
Them days, Dolani boys bringing in shipload.
Exactly. Right? That was never. Right?
Listen,
But listen,
you know what? There was probably transitioning in Trinidad and Tobago because we know we are that. But it wasn't staying in Trinidad and Tobago. Now it's literally staying here. And Tobago can't catch itself for crime because they have a huge cocaine problem. I am saying it big. Tobago has a huge cocaine problem. That is why crime in Tobago is going up.
Good night, Alana.
Yeah.
let me ask you, what was the name of the website Julian Assange had? What was the name of it?
What was the name of what? Sorry.
Website Julian Assange was running.
WikiLeaks.
I went a couple of years ago with my past self and said, no, let me type in Trinidad and Tobago and see what will pop up on Trinidad and Tobago on WikiLeaks. My past self. Unclassified documents on WikiLeaks. Trinidad and Tobago there, you know. But funny things I could remember was, right? One was in the time of Castro. Maybe I don't know if it was in the 60s, the 70s. I remember these. They actually had a meeting. The CIA actually had a meeting where they put forward a plan to explode bombs throughout certain Caribbean islands and blame it on Castro. And there on WikiLeaks, unclassified documents. Trinidad and Jamaica name, yeah, you know, in that film. Next one is Dr. Eric Williams. They had Dr. Eric Williams classified as anti-white. Right? They didn't like him.
Because he had some commie tendencies and they hated the commies.
Right. They even tried to set up Eric Williams in the United States with a marijuana case. This DMV website still up in problem. They're still that there. Unclassified documents. And these are the people that we are tied to. Literally tied to.
Where's that?
Listen, that's how those ally things go, you know. The US are allies with Israel. People hate that allyship. People hate it. But, you know, Israel has done some dirty deeds to the US in the past. I'm sure you know, Uma.
Yeah.
Because so there are some countries that do it more blatantly, and Israel is one of those. They see about numero uno. That's the only thing on their mind.
We need to do the same thing.
And that's what I said. I agree with that. Where I would just say ease up on like our country, don't go and attempt, like, we understand our position. Like us, we could say Bundong America and America with a stink dirty self. But when you're up there as the leader, understand we are the cockroach in the foul party proverbially here. Let's not try to anger the fouls unnecessary, but understand that we are about our cockroach duty. We out here looking for our own. We not like when you talk when Dr. Rowley came back from that meeting in the US and he says we are part of the rules-based order. I'm like, no sir, let's not do those things. The rules-based order is that order with the United States at the top. Who makes those rules about rules-based order? No. Let's make deals with who we can make deals with. Yeah. I like how we treated with Venezuela. We know the US and Venezuela aren't in good terms, but what really should that have to do with us? Okay, if we're having a party, we wouldn't invite both of you at the same time, but what y'all anger have to do with me?
This is with Trump now. Who's your President Trump?
Mm-hmm.
You could just call him president.
President-elect, right? Is unpredictable.
He is. He is. He is.
I like that.
I could see it going both ways. I could see it going where because he is more anti-interventionist, he's like, whatever Venezuela does. Okay. And this deal, the setup of this deal is supposedly not supposed to be able to give Venezuela any direct financial benefit. The thing is, we were supposed to give them things other than money stuff. So they could get some food and whatever. However we're going to do that deal will be interesting. But I also could see it as he wants to put the squeeze on Venezuela because he doesn't mind attempting to force a coup in the old US way. They were trying to do that with Iran. They spoke about that publicly recently, that he was trying to do that with Iran. He was trying to squeeze Iran so badly that the people revolt and they topple the regime. And you don't need to send boots on the ground to do that. And they may try to do that with Venezuela, I'm not sure. If they try to do that with Venezuela, we are in some trouble. Not just the dragon gas. We are Venezuela's neighbors. If people start to pile off of Venezuela like a sinking ship, lots of them are going to come here. And we are already overloaded.
Our Coast Guard had to stand up on the water and shoot.
The Coast Guard stopping all them people.
Ronnie, you would have been, you lucky you didn't born white in some European country, you know. You would have for sure be on the Nationalist Party, you know.
Yeah.
You want the Coast Guard on the water shooting migrants trying to get across.
What country was doing that? Greece was doing that, huh?
Yes, they were. On the Mediterranean, riddling people with bullets.
Listen, I have to put my country first.
Okay, Israeli. All right, Mossad.
But listen, if we allow Venezuela to come over, you know what's gonna happen to we're gonna be the minority in our own country.
You're really singing. I agree. Let me just tell you, I agree. Eh? But you see how it what you're saying here, Ronnie, all that you just said, is what a lot of Republicans complain about over there. And they say it, and people say, how dare you? Like,
I can say it because I'm black.
Like, that's not a weird thing for people to say. It's normal for people to be worried about being overrun by outside. That's like the most normal worry of humankind.
It's our envy bias. But what I would like to say on my thing on Trump, you know, said he's unpredictable, and I think he's gonna get this. He has no real reason to be anything, any form of good in this term, because this is last term, he can't run again. So we're gonna say that he run the country bad. It doesn't matter, he's not going back. So I don't know what to expect in this term. I think it also means that he could be a bit harder. He could be harder without consequence. So he could definitely do mass deportations. He could definitely do 150% tariffs on anybody and everybody. He could do what the hell he wants. Because he ain't going back.
I mean, but you're looking at something like, well, how much immigrants are they estimated is like what?
10 to 20 million.
10 to 20 million. I mean, I listened to our immigration lawyer talking, right? I mean, like, that is your business, so you don't know what side you're on. What he is saying is, it's going to cost US more money to deport all these people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Than naturalize who you can, because it's impossible to stop immigration, especially from Mexico. Impossible.
The problem I hear people saying with the naturalizing thing is that just encourages it to keep happening. If we are allowing 10 million, 20 million, and we say, oh no, we can't let them out, so we make them citizens, what does that tell the other 20 million waiting to come in?
Well, advertise yourself as Ilana, honey and roses, you know.
That's why you should report them, because your honey will run.
Exactly. That's the idea. The idea is we advertise this as the pearl on top the hill, but it's not somewhere that any and everybody could just walk in. It's a privilege to get in. And okay, wherever, you do that if you want to go there. But that's understandable to me. That's an understandable position to have. And I don't think the cost would be that obtrusive. I think the people who benefit from it would always make it seem like it's impossible. But I actually don't think it's impossible.
And even if it costs them plenty to be here, it doesn't cost them in the long run. When you consider the long run effect of having these people, especially when they don't, where's call it again? Form to conform.
Yeah, they assimilate.
Yeah, they don't assimilate. Then what does that do to your country? Like, that is what Canada is doing.
Who not assimilated? The Mexicans? Who not assimilated? The Mexicans not assimilated in America. Who does assimilate more than the Mexicans? Them who?
I'm not talking about the Mexicans. It's not only Mexicans. They have Caribbean. They have a lot of Venezuelans, actually. A lot of Venezuelans. So people not assimilating.
It's too many. It's not that. It's not just that the cultures don't want to assimilate. It's too many coming in too fast, and then they silo themselves off. So if you have a million people coming in, where they could build a community, a little migrant community of a couple thousand, where all they do is speak Spanish and eat their local foods inside of that community, it's like they recreate their country there. You're not going to have assimilation. Many countries have those problems where you make cultural ghettos in communities with that kind of thing. It's just too many coming in at a time. The way assimilation generally would work, it's a small amount coming, and because there's obviously a dominant culture, the dominant culture, you would assimilate into it, and then more coming and the same thing happens. But when you drop in a whole massive group inside there, the assimilation is very difficult. Will you finish, Ronnie? Yeah, I understand why people would want to go if they have opportunities, but there's obviously something weird going on. Isn't our very own Prince Swandan out there as an asylee in the US? Like, really?
I mean.
Anyway, I'm gonna say something. I might send you back.
He on refugee status. He are waiting.
Everybody on refugee status. We should have go. We would not be on refugee status.
Nah, it's easy for Trinidad to get a refugee just so it's not unrest in Trinidad.
But that's the Umar. if you listen to what those Republicans have been complaining about, that is it. That the people on the refugee status now do not have to prove that they are fleeing conflict. They just have to lie. All they have to say is tick a box that yes, I am. And then they are released into the country. Catch and release. That's the problem. While what Trump had the wait in Mexico, which was really wait in a third country, what that meant is if there was a closer country you could get to, you have to go to that country and wait there while you apply for asylum. That's what the policy was. So all of these asylees, if Swandan wanted to apply for asylum, go to Barbados and apply for it there. Well, that's what the law would have been. And that's what asylum is. Because if your country has conflict, you flee to a neighboring country without that conflict, because the idea of a refugee is that when the conflict ends, you go back. But when people could just go, leave halfway across the world, so many countries that take refugees in between Timbuktu and where they're going, and they go there, and all they have to do is say, yes, I am fleeing conflict. No proof of anything needed. And then a judge tells them, well, come back in 5 years and we'll listen to your case. Are they going to come back in 5 years? You release them into the interior of the United States. Are they coming back in 5 years? That's how you end up with 20 million illegal immigrants in the country.
Look what I'm saying for Trinidad, right? If you're saying to the people go to a near country, so you're telling 200,000 Venezuelans, 300,000 Venezuelans come to Trinidad and wait for refugee status in the United States.
But they won't get into Trinidad and Tobago. That is the point.
Because Trinidad has its own legal migration laws. So you could get how much Trinidad could get, and if you can't get into Trinidad, you go to the next country. You can't get into Colombia, you go to Brazil. You can't get into Brazil, you go to Honduras. You can't get into Honduras, you go to El Salvador. You can't get into El Salvador, you go to Ecuador. You can't get into Ecuador, you go to Panama. You can't get into Panama, then you might make your way up to Guatemala, and if not Guatemala, maybe eventually Mexico. If not Mexico, then you reach on the US border and tell the US, well, look, I applied here, and here, and this is the only place that can take me. And then they say, okay, well, this is a worthy claim. Doesn't that make sense?
Like a whole spider web day.
But if you are fleeing conflict, that's the best way to do it.
I understand that logic, but they haven't really seen it that way. It's that the people, the Venezuelans who choose not to come to Trinidad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And decide to go up through Central America and go across the Darien Passage.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, they can't. You stop in El Salvador, you will go to jail.
If I survive the Darien Passage, if I survive that trek, better we go all the way, you know.
But it's only better you go all the way because they're taking you in when you get there. If it's Trumpy, and Trumpy is letting you know,
No.
that Darien Passage, you aren't going to do it because there's no benefit. And that's the thing. It's what is being rewarded. What you reward is what's going to happen. Like even in Trinidad, when we did the work license for the Venezuelans, that was an encouragement for more. Now, I'm not even saying that was a bad thing or an unnecessary thing. I'm not even saying that. It's just a comment on the fact of what it does.
That was for the businessmen.
Of course.
But it was for them too, because then they wouldn't have been taken advantage of.
What?
They were taking advantage of them. Listen, don't look at me like that. I'm just saying. No, they could get better jobs if they had the
well, they could get better jobs. I'll take that. They could that allowed them to get some better jobs. I agree on that front. So you don't only have to work in the slummy background area. You could come into the light and people could see you and stuff because you know you're legal to be here. I could take that, but don't tell me that the businessman all of a sudden. No.
Damn. I'm talking about working in other places.
All right, people. 11:22. I like that number. That's all I have for now.
That's really all.
Yeah, girl. Well, no, not really in terms of all, but you know how it goes now. After one time is two time.
Okay.
When you see the background change to a brand new studio, just know that is when we knocking them out.
I gave you that story since Lily's a baby.
But how old Lily's 20 or what?
Lily's 2 years now. You gave me that story.
Nah, I wasn't getting that story 2 years now because I only started building a couple months ago. But yeah, we go. Don't worry. We go organize eventually. All right, people. That's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. This has been the Mindful Life. I am Nathan Springer. We'll be here again tomorrow. Yeah, I should be here tomorrow. Yeah. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next Mindful Live session. Until then, people, hold it down. Stay well. Stay safe. Stay inside. Outside, little sketchy. Marry somebody, child, and make some babies. Repopulate the nation. Populate the earth.
Good luck.
Ronnie, I don't like the song of that, eh? Marry somebody, child, and make the babies.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Hold it down. Laters. I'm out. Hey, Kareem Del Pesh over on YouTube. Big up your whole self. Yeah, man. It's been a while. Always love the debates. Yeah, the debates